Thank you. And we might find like we all came from the different backgrounds, but we share the same interest, like approaching CSCL from different perspectives, no matter what kind of backgrounds we have. But I think we realized because the complexity of the CSCL, just analyzing, approaching this complex task from one perspective is not enough. So that's why the whole purpose of this workshop, well, first we want to share our experience and see how the, people from other fields look at this area. And then, based on the sharing, the common ground, we want to communicate to each other and see if we can learn from each other, and so to establish the further collaboration, the possibility of the collaboration. And so I think I better jump to the three themes of this workshop. First, we want to see how people analyze the data of the non-constrained CSCL. That means like we don't specify the data, what the data is, it is, and that's as opposed to the second part of the data analysis. And it's about the some of the CSC data, we already have the definition or the name for that. And finally, the session 3 is about the visualization of the CSCL analysis. So now let's welcome Dr. Chen from Computer Science Department of Hong Kong University and giving us his work on the data mining of the CSCL data.
Thank you so much. At the back, I prefer not to use the microphone if possible. Okay. So I'm Kok-Ping Chen from the Computer Science Department of this university. Today I would like to share with you some of my research and other people's research that is related to the topic today. Okay, so it's question classification and sentiment analysis. So first of all,
yes, I think it's better.
so this is a joint project between us and Professor Nancy Law of here. Okay, so what we are looking at is the knowledge forum where students can participate in the forum to discuss issues, and we try to look at the articles that are posted by the students, okay, to see how their learning process is, okay, by looking at their articles. Okay, so the knowledge forum is a forum for students to discuss interesting issues. Okay, and we try to differentiate, okay, the articles into 4 different types. Okay, that is argument, statement, information, and questions. Okay, so that is the problem that we will be looking into. Okay, so since it is still in the early stage of the project, okay, so today I will share with you some of our experience, our previous work, and other people's work. So there are 2 pieces of work that are related to this problem. Okay, the first one is question classification. Okay, question classification has been done in many researches, okay, such as, say, question answering systems. Okay, say, for example, if you go to Yahoo Knowledge or, say, Sina, okay, they also have similar systems. So where there are a lot of question and answering systems. So the target is to try to automate this process. Okay, so that the user can ask a question, okay, and then the system will try to find the solution automatically. Okay, so the first step is to look at the question itself and try to classify questions. Okay, so this problem is to classify questions into different categories. Okay, so the techniques that are used here can also be applied to article classifications as well. The other is sentiment analysis. Okay. Sentiment analysis is quite a hot topic recently. Okay, so it is also called opinion mining. okay, where people try to dig out, okay, different opinions, okay, given by the authors of an article, okay, such as whether the article is positive or negative towards a particular, say, for example, product. If it is a review article, okay, so we try to look at whether, say, the author is positive to the product or not, or the political opinion of a article writer, okay, whether it is conservative or liberal, and so on. Okay, so there are many different techniques here. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you is the very general principles behind. Okay, I'm not going to go into the deep detail of how this can be done. Okay. So first of all, we look at question classification. Okay, so we have used a local aligned tree kernel to do question classification. And the application is, as I mentioned, question answering systems, and we try to work based on the UIUC chat database. Okay, so this is a database that people use it as a benchmark to compare different systems. Okay, so the UIUC chat database, there are 5 different training sets. Okay, say in database machine learning, okay, people try to use data to train the classifier, okay, and then use a tester to test whether the result is correct or not. Okay, in order to compare, okay, different approaches to the problem, we always use the same data set, okay, and the same testing set, so that the comparison is meaningful. Otherwise, if you use one set and I use another set, then the results may be different. Okay? So people use this data set, okay, to compare the results. Okay? So there are 5 training sets, varying from 1,000 to 5,520 questions, and a test set of 500 questions. Okay? And the questions are divided into 6 course classes and 50 fine classes. Okay? So here is the classification. The 6 fine course classes and their corresponding 50 fine classes. So the detail, okay, you can find out from the reference, okay, by the authors. So here are some examples of the questions. For example, abbreviation, okay, what is the full form of .com, and so on. Okay. So to give you an idea what each of these categories looks like. So to do learnings, okay, and classification, what we first need to do is to find out features, okay, that we can differentiate between different categories. Okay, so here is a summary of the possible features that we can use and the features that we are using. So basically, there are 2 types of features. One is syntactic features, okay, that looks at the syntax of the sentence. Okay, so how the sentence grammatically looks like. Okay? So the syntax of the sentence will tell us, for example, who is the actor of the sentence, who is the receiver of the sentence, what is the action involved in the sentence, and so on. Okay, so this will give you an idea of, say, the type of question, some idea of the type of question. So they will be useful in classifying the questions. Okay, so the syntactic features that we're using are words. Okay, so the words that appear in the questions. Okay, different words will tell you the type of question. Say, for example, where. Okay, the word where, okay, will tell you that this question is something about locations and so on. Okay, and then POS tags, of course. Okay, the parts of speech tag. Okay, so we try to label each words, okay, into their parts of speech. Okay. And the chunks, okay, we try to do a so-called shallow parsing, okay, to group these words into chunks. Say, for example, a noun phrase, a word phrase, and so on. Okay. And finally, so we look at the head chunks. Okay. So what is the first chunk, the first noun or word chunk in the question? So this first chunk will usually, the first noun phrase or the first word phrase in the sentence will usually tell you something about the question itself. So these are useful features that we are using. Okay, so here is an example from Lee and Rolf of UIUC, okay, the developer of this thread database. Okay, so an example of the question and also their corresponding feature that are extracted.